Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a tragic chapter of history, the Sabra and Shatila massacre of 1982, an event that not only exposed the brutal realities of war, but also ignited international outrage and humanitarian discourse. Let's explore what happened, why it matters, and the legacy it leaves behind. To understand the massacre, we need to look at the context. The Lebanese Civil War, which began in 1975, was a complex conflict fueled by sectarian tensions, foreign interventions, and the struggle for power among various factions. By the early 1980s, the PLO had established a significant presence in Lebanon, particularly in Beirut. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, became heavily involved as many Palestinian refugees, expelled from their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, sought refuge in Lebanon. The organization was seen by some Lebanese factions as a threat, leading to rising tensions. The Palestinian refugees, often marginalized and living in dire conditions, became embroiled in the conflict. Many Lebanese factions, particularly the Christian militias, viewed the PLO's presence as an occupying force, exacerbating existing sectarian divides. In June 1982, Israel launched a military invasion of Lebanon, ostensibly to eliminate the PLO as a military threat. This operation led to intense fighting and significant civilian casualties. Following the invasion, the Israeli army besieged West Beirut, where the PLO had retreated. After weeks of bombardment, the PLO began to withdraw under international pressure, leaving behind thousands of Palestinian civilians. This withdrawal created a power vacuum that would soon be exploited by various factions. The assassination of Bashir Gemayel on September 14, 1982, a leader of the Lebanese Phalangist Party, acted as a catalyst for the impending tragedy. Gemayel, who had been aligned with Israel and was seen as a key figure in the Christian militias, was killed by a bomb in Beirut. In the aftermath, the Phalangist militia sought retribution against the Palestinian population, whom they blamed for the assassination. This atmosphere of vengeance and the desire for revenge laid the groundwork for the massacre that would soon unfold. On September 16, 1982, under the cover of an Israeli military presence, the Phalangist militia entered the Sabra and Shatila refugee camps. Over the next 3 days, a horrific massacre unfolded. Estimates of the number of victims vary, with sources suggesting that between 800 to 3,500 Palestinian refugees, including women, children, and the elderly, were brutally murdered. The scale of the violence was shocking, and the images that emerged from the camps painted a grim picture of human suffering. The violence was systematic and merciless. Survivors recount harrowing tales of the atrocities committed, including mass executions and widespread sexual violence. Eyewitness accounts describe scenes of terror as families were torn apart and entire communities obliterated. This was not just an act of war. It was a targeted obliteration of a vulnerable population, already ravaged by years of conflict and displacement. The international response was one of horror and outrage. News of the massacre sparked global protests and condemnation. The United Nations called for an investigation, and human rights organizations began documenting the atrocities. The involvement of the Israeli military, which had provided support to the Phalangists during the massacre, raised serious ethical questions about complicity and accountability in wartime actions. The massacre at Sabra and Shatila became a symbol of the suffering endured by Palestinian refugees. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch conducted extensive investigations, documenting the events and calling for accountability. Public outrage prompted widespread protests in many countries, demanding justice for the victims and highlighting the need for a reevaluation of international policies regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Sabra and Shatila massacre is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by civilians in conflict zones. It underscores the urgent need for international humanitarian laws to be upheld and enforced. The world cannot turn a blind eye to such atrocities. Justice must be pursued, not only for the victims but to prevent future occurrences. This massacre also catalyzed a shift in public perception regarding Israeli policies and actions in the region. It underscores the urgent need for international humanitarian laws to be upheld and enforced. The world cannot turn a blind eye to such atrocities. Justice must be pursued, not only for the victims but to prevent future occurrences. This massacre also catalyzed a shift in public perception regarding Israeli policies and actions in the region. It sparked debates about morality in warfare and the responsibilities of foreign powers that support military operations. The complicity of Israel in allowing the Phalangists to operate within the camps has led to ongoing discussions about accountability in international relations. Today, the memory of those lost in Sabra and Shatila lives on through memorials and annual commemorative events. Every September, Palestinians and their supporters gather to honor the victims and to remind the world of the consequences of political violence. These gatherings serve not only as a memorial but also as a platform for advocacy, demanding recognition of the massacre and justice for the victims' families. I lost my family that day. My mother, my siblings. We were just trying to survive. The cries, the chaos, those memories haunt me every day. But we continue to speak out, to tell our stories, so that the world remembers what happened and ensures it never happens again. The legacy of the Sabra and Shatila massacre extends beyond remembrance. It has become a pivotal moment in Palestinian history, influencing generations of activists and advocates for human rights. Educational programs around the world now incorporate discussions about the massacre, emphasizing the importance of understanding historical injustices as part of the broader struggle for peace and equality. As we reflect on the Sabra and Shatila massacre, we are reminded of the importance of remembrance and the need for vigilance against the forces of hatred and violence. History teaches us that silence and indifference can lead to unimaginable atrocities. Let us honor the victims by striving for a world where such tragedies are never repeated. The pursuit of justice is not just for the past, but for a hopeful future. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that dives deep into our shared history. Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. How do you think events like these shape our understanding of human rights today? What steps do you believe should be taken to prevent such tragedies in the future? Thank you for joining us today. Together, let's keep the conversation alive. Remembering the past is crucial in shaping a more just and compassionate world for all.